Hi, good evening, everyone. So, since I've been asked to step up, so I'm not going to lose time on this. Of course, welcome to this, I think, penultimate session for the day before the awards. And the topic is very interesting: celebrating life in this new world of work. Right? Panelists, to please take your seats, please. So, I think all of us will have our own take when we hear celebrating life in this new world of work. The two operating words there are celebrating life and the new world of work. And all of us can have our own interpretation. To me, I've never liked the word work-life balance. It looks like life and work are two separate things, and we're just doing a balancing act, juggling away. I've never liked the idea of that. I think work is a subset of life, and somewhere work is one thing in the wheel of life, and we need to see how we can integrate the two seamlessly. With that thought, I'd like to straight away go to my panelists here. We have some great panelists here. So maybe I'll start with the lady here, Navneet. Navneet, if you could tell us, when you hear the topic celebrating life in the new world of work, what comes up for you?
I'll start with something which comes to my mind. If you celebrate life with passion, there is more of life to celebrate. So with this, I think it's kind of become very cliche to say new way of work or the new ways of working and the old and the new. I think eventually it's life, right? It's us. It's you and me who are sitting in this room, and why not is the question, right? And when we say celebrating life in the new age of work, it is also to embrace what's coming our way, right? I know there's some people who may not understand Hindi here, but let me just say a quote which comes to my mind. हम जुनून से जीते हैं, हम जुनून से जीते हैं by chance से नहीं, right? So I think that's for me is the sense of celebrating life, and terminologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, bot, Internet of Things. Many of us in this room, including my own self, would get somehow flustered beyond a point in time to talk about this, right? But that's a reality of life.
Right.
So if we embrace that and move forward, I think we'll be more efficient, we will be a better individual, we'll be able to contribute more to the organizations that we work for.
Sure. Thank you, Navneet. What about you, Prabhash? What's your take on this topic?
Yeah, actually, so celebrating life, so that's a positive side of it. So then, of course, if you can do that, that's great, and that's what we should do. So it's like then you can go good to great. So I would like to look at the other aspect as well, like why people can't, that aspect. So then, because as leaders, I think if you can look at that part also, why? So sometimes we have to, because we don't have the real focus, like we grumble on unwanted things. So we don't, so then what can we do? Because we carry others' burdens also. Like the previous, in one of the previous sessions, Dr. Mahesh mentioned about the Sri Lankan context, because I'm from Sri Lanka. So, and the tax burden. So nowadays in Sri Lanka, all the people are talking about the tax. But there is a limit for you to pay taxes also. But the people who don't pay tax also, they worry about that. And then life has become miserable. And the fuel prices have gone up, that impacts everybody. But even the petrol prices, when goes up, a person who does not have even a motorcycle started grumbling about that. So then how do we zoom in? Like you as leaders, when you have a conversation with your team members or your clients, in our word, like coach's word, like, so then how do you zoom in where the real problem is? If you can understand that, so then it's easy for you to support that individual, your team member, you as a leader.
Right.
And then once you know that, again, for you as leaders, it'd be very important where your client is or your team member is. Maybe simple, if you take a simple structure, 4 quadrants. Like if I take a simple example, like if you have maybe a small kid in a remote village, right? So you are going to talk about driving a vehicle. You are going to teach that kid about driving a vehicle. If that kid, because this guy is from, let's say, very far away remote village, he has never seen a vehicle car. So if you start talking about, okay, this is the first gear, second gear, reverse and all that, this is how brakes work and all that, it's nonsense. If the kid has never seen a vehicle, so first maybe at least you can show him a picture. This is the car. This is a car that I am talking about. It has 4 wheels and things like that. So that means in our technical terms, like if you take, it's unconscious incompetence. We don't know, at least we don't know. We don't know whether we don't know even. So our clients are our team members sometimes, irrespective of their designation. Why CEOs commit suicide? Not that because they don't have education. But at the moment, sometimes they don't know that they don't know. So that's unconscious incompetence. You will find people of that nature.
Thank
sometimes.
you. Thank you, Prabhash, and thank you for touching upon what can come in the way of celebrating life. You gave us some example from Sri Lanka, and as we always say, we all may be seeming to be in the same storm, but we are on different boats. And you just heard from the Sri Lankan context what's going on there. So I'll come to my third panelist here, Venkatesh. Venkatesh, could you tell us how do you relate to this statement, celebrating life in this new world of work?
So when I first heard about the topic, my response was, finally. It's almost like life and work have been historically 2 completely different dimensions. You know, life is life, work is work, never the twain shall meet. But finally, thanks to the pandemic, thanks to technology, the distinction between life and work is blurring.
Sure.
You know, there used to be a time you would go to 25 years ago, you know, work on desktops, no laptops, no internet, and you know, if some work comes your way at say 10 in the night, you would just do it the next day. Nowadays, you know, everybody looks for that blue tick on the WhatsApp, and they know that you've seen the message but not responded. The reverse is also true. So just as work intrudes into life, life has also come into work.
Right.
You know, I don't know if many of you have seen this movie called Cinderella Man. There is this dialogue, you know, one of the characters says it. He says, "My brains are for my work, my heart is for my family." That's not true anymore.
Not true anymore.
We bring our hearts, brains, souls, everything to work.
Fantastic.
You know, and I can tell you that all the companies that I work with, the number one theme that they talk about now is wellness and mental health. Because they all recognize that their employees are bringing their full selves to work. And if they are bringing their full selves to work, the work environment can no longer be sterile and, you know,
True.
come what may, just focus on, you know, targets and deliverables. It's got to encompass a holistic definition of mental health. And the other thing is, I think as leaders, it also means we need to be more mindful. Mindful of, you know, needing to provide trust and safety, needing to, I think, not just look at one dimension of the employees. And I think gig economy has also made this much more complicated now.
Sure. So in the interest of time, I'm going to take one example. Maybe I'll request Navneet, if you can give us one real world example of how does one celebrate life in this new world of work. What have you done to facilitate this as a HR head?
Thanks, Puneet. I think this is very close to my heart. And I have a privilege of working with some of the largest corporates. With the recent one where I'm currently working is Reliance Industries, right? So I'm not going to quote example from Reliance for sure, right? So I'll quote an example with one of the large-scale transformation project which I was involved in, wherein there were 2 organizations of equal might which were coming together. And just to give a dimension on the numbers, there were 20,000 employees on one side, company A, and 20,000 employees, you know, on company B. And both the organization had to merge and create one single entity. And that's today's one of the largest Indian corporates. Again, name may not be, you know, a right thing to say. And the final outcome had to be 20,000 only. So it was 20 plus 20, 40, and final outcome had to be only 20,000 employees on that, in that final organization which had to be created, right? And while we may say that, leaders need to be empathetic, resilient, fair, transparent, we are humans still at the end of the day. Leaders have not come from a different world. They are amongst us. We all are leaders who are sitting in this room, right? So there are some intuitive biases which come in. So, and also before I get on to further, we say that what is it for employees, right? Typically when we talk in organizations or even in forums like this, we see from an employee perspective. And very often do we miss out the leadership band, which are also the employees or the senior leaders or the top management who are supposed to be driving the culture down the organization. And how do we ensure that there is a method in madness which is followed to ensure that the leaders are felt to be or perceived to be transparent, honest, and communicative, right? So with this backdrop, we introduced chatbot interviews, right? Wherein up till a particular level, there were employees who were interviewed by a chatbot. There was a AI-led score which was kind of carved out, and basis that the final organization structure was filled in with the right set of people, with the right set of skills, so on and so forth, right? Now, considering in case this technology, which we now call it as the new way of working or the new world or the new age or the fourth industrial revolution, there are many terms to the same thing, right? Had it not been there, it wouldn't have been possible to do such large-scale transformation within a week's time. We did entire exercise, Puneet, in 1 week's time, right? Leaving aside the top brass, maybe around, if I remember correctly, maybe around 30% people of the organization, rest all, 87%, were given the AI-based score, and thereafter the further interventions, right? So the system wouldn't have been efficient. It wouldn't have been able to kickstart in the fairness manner. And again, the leaders on both the sides were absolutely perceived fair, because it was not a leader A and a leader B who was actually evaluating one person, for say 2 people for the same profile. It was an independent entity which was doing it. So which gave more confidence to people. And that exercise, how he ran, was absolutely seamless. And I was absolutely privileged to be really a part of that piece. On this, Puneet, sorry, I know I'm short of time.
No, it's all right. It's a great example.
But a very good example which comes to my mind, and this is very recent. Again, I won't want to name the organizations, but that's an organization wherein any one of us sitting in this room would like to work for that organization. It's a large US multinational organization who laid off 13,527 people recently. People have got the clue of the organization I'm talking about. And what was miserable was, at least as an individual, what I felt, in one of the first rounds of restructuring, who they laid off was the chief wellness officer. Yeah? And that was the time the chief wellness officer was most needed in the organization.
That explains.
Right?
That explains
so
a
with
lot.
this, I think, Puneet, thank you very much for this opportunity for such
That
a
explains a lot.
engaging
Navneet,
question.
if you could connect back celebrating life with your previous example, because a chat bot literally deciding the fate of 40,000 people, giving them an AI score to decide which of the 20,000 stay back in a large organization, has a huge repercussion on the emotions of 40,000 people. How do you connect this back with the celebrating life that we're talking about here in this new world?
I mean, and again, before I answer your question, Puneet, I see close to around 120 odd people sitting in this room, and I know that following this session is an award ceremony for celebrating the learning leaders and celebrating the coaches. Am I correct? Did
Yes,
I get
yes.
that right? And many of you, I know, I mean, working in corporate, you get to know who these people are.
Yeah.
I know that many of us will be recipients of that award who are in this room today.
Yeah.
That is celebrating life,
Yeah.
right? And it's not that we are seeking external validation here.
Of course.
We are not seeking external validation. Anyone who's in this room and who has done an assignment, and who has made difference to people's lives, you already celebrating life, guys.
Right.
And it's not an external validation needed, but yes, to be connected to this community is something which is absolutely required, and which is why. Okay,
Right.
coming back to the question that how did we engage those people? So again, bots, AI, artificial intelligence can do whatever we have programmed them to do. Something which any human hasn't done it, and it will be done for the first time. It's only a human who can do it. They can do a repetitive stuff. They can do, I mean, we code them to say that, okay, fine, there's an algorithm which is fed in the machine to say that, okay, with this, so many random set of question comes in, this is the kind of scoring, this is the kind of keywords you pick in, right? And that's how you score. After that, there was an intervention which was a very humanly based intervention. We went through the score, we went through the competencies, we went through the skill set. We went through, there was one session, I think 2 sessions prior, soft skills are the new hard skills. A lot of those were seeing learning agility, result orientation,
Sure.
achievement, judgment. These were some of the additional things which we had seen, and
No, the way I also just would like to add that I saw celebration here in the fairness. There was 40,000 people involved. There was a chatbot there, but there was a fairness. Though 2 organizations were at play, there was a fair third party, which was AI score, which actually decided the fate. So the feeling of feeling fair and just was the celebration in that case. And I think that's a fantastic example that Navneet gave us. On that note, just 1 or 2 questions from the audience, and then we'll wind up. Yeah. Anybody, any questions on celebrating life or any thought? We have some great people in the audience. Anything that you would like to share? What celebrating life means in the new age of work. Anybody wants to make a comment or a question, you're most welcome. Yes, anyone? Yeah, there.
So, hello ma'am, I just have a question from you. That it's an era where we are moving to more of a work-life integration rather than work-life balance. But at a generation who was more comfortable for a work-life balance, how tough for an organization it becomes to match the balance for moving from work-life balance to work-life integration.
thank you. May I know your good name, please?
My name is Shubham Raj.
Shubham, thanks Shubham for the question. This was the question which came to our mind 2.5 years back. And here I'll talk about Reliance. Now I don't shy away about talking about it. We are 3 lakhs employees in the organization, right? 2.5 years back, when the pandemic hit in, we did not know which way to go. We have large manufacturing setups. We have exploration and production. We have the consumer-facing units. We have the hospital, Sir H.N. Reliance Hospital. We have Dhirubhai Ambani International School. We have Geo World Center. All these functions or the verticals work very, very differently. And that is a fear probably with which we started. But as an organization, we absolutely trusted the resilience of everyone in the organization, primarily because of the fact the psychological safety that everyone had in the organization was immense, is immense, and remain immense, right? So I think work-life integration, it's just a play of mind, I would say. Rather, it makes things more comfortable, right? And just to give an example, so I was in a scheduled leave between yesterday and today. I had some personal work in addition to this piece. And I couldn't manage the time in between, and we had some senior stakeholder. I had to close an interview with one of the very, very senior stakeholder we are hiring, right? So, and the only time I could manage was at 9:30 in the evening. But that worked best on both the sides. And today, most likely, as we speak, the offer has already been rolled out to that individual. Right? So I think it didn't stop the work, but at the same time, it made the entire process so efficient. But yes, there are supposed to be enablers to do that, and technology is just one. Technology is by default. It is by default. MS Teams has to work, Zoom has to work, whatever other platforms we have need to work. That's just a hygiene factor. It's also the awareness of the leaders, the managers whom we work with. When it is required, do that. But when it is not required, please cut the cord and just leave it.
Sure.
So a part of it, I also handle a very sensitive geography, which is also to do with some of the family interventions, right? And if I start saying that I can't receive calls beyond 10 p.m., I'll not be in the organization the next day. So not to say that it's a botheration, but it's about the celebration. I think I'm one of the privileged ones to be here in the organization that I'm working with, and
Sure.
it's about that, Puneet.
Thanks, ma'am.
If I may add, actually, work-life balance was the earlier paradigm, and as you rightly pointed out, work-life integration is now the new paradigm. I think most organizations are at their infancy in understanding work-life integration. Most of them, in my opinion, don't genuinely yet comprehend what work-life integration involves. Trust and safety is the absolute minimum. So we talk a lot about trust and safety. At least we have reached level 1. But in higher levels, you would seek to have a matching or at least some sort of alignment between personal values and vision and purpose and the organizational values and vision and purpose. I think a lot of work needs to be done there, and I think coaching can actually play a big role in that.
Absolutely. In fact, I'd like to just add that, there are disruptors and catalysts. So from the era of work-life balance to work-life integration, one of the biggest disruptors has been COVID itself. How many organizations would have allowed all of us work from home before COVID? A lot of people would frown even thinking that everybody on work from home, but when it had to happen and they were forced to allow that to happen, you see how we have actually thrived in work from home as well. There was a complete change. We surprised ourselves more than ever in work-life integration during the COVID period. So sometimes these kind of disruptors really pave way for a different, and I think we are well on this side now. The infancy that you spoke about, the kid has kind of jumped out of the cradle now as of post-COVID. So on that note, I know organizers would want me to wind up here. I can't thank our lovely panel enough. Thank you, Navneet. Thank you, Prabhash, and thank you, Venkatesh. Thank you.
Thanks, Puneet. Thank you very much.